Hey, English learners. Welcome back to Mr. English Fluent Tutor, and welcome back to another wonderful episode. I am Anna.
And I am Abel.
Abel, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
What do you think about when you hear the words speaking like a leader?
Honestly, Anna, when I first hear that phrase, I picture someone standing at the front of a massive boardroom, using really complex corporate vocabulary that I barely understand, giving loud, confident commands, and never ever showing any hesitation or emotion whatsoever. It sounds like something very far away from everyday normal people like me. It feels almost intimidating, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. And I completely understand why it feels that way, Abel, because so many people share that exact same picture in their minds. But here is the beautiful truth. Speaking like a leader is actually about listening actively, choosing calm and simple words, staying steady in your presence, and genuinely making the people around you feel heard, seen, and valued. It is much closer to us than we think.
Oh, wow. That honestly changes everything for me already. So it is not about sounding like some powerful politician or a CEO with a booming voice. It's actually about how you connect, how you listen, and how clearly and calmly you express your thoughts. That is something I can actually work on every single day. I love that, Anna.
Exactly, Abel. And that is precisely why today is going to be such a rich and rewarding conversation for every single English learner joining us right now. Whether you are on your morning commute, relaxing at home, or taking a study break, this episode is designed to feel like a calm, encouraging walk through the habits of confident, clear, and truly leadership-style communication in English.
And I think what makes this topic so exciting is that it connects to something every one of us experiences daily. We speak to colleagues, to family members, to strangers, to shop assistants, to our bosses, and every one of those moments is actually an opportunity to practice sounding clearer, calmer, and more genuinely connected to the person in front of us.
That is such a lovely point, Abel, and it brings me right into the very first idea I want to explore with you today. I like to call it the water from a bottle analogy. Imagine you are holding a fresh, full bottle of water. That water represents your presence, your communicative authority, and the natural confidence you carry when you walk into any conversation or room.
Oh, that is a really interesting image, Anna. So the water is basically my credibility and my calm presence as a speaker. I like that. And I'm guessing that when I'm nervous or rushing through my words, something happens to that water, right? I would love for you to explain what that looks like, because I definitely recognize the feeling of panic speaking when I'm in an important moment.
Yes, exactly right, Abel. When we rush our sentences, interrupt others out of nervous energy, or over-explain the same idea again and again because we're afraid of being misunderstood, we're essentially tipping that bottle sideways. All of that precious water, all of that natural authority and warmth just spills out onto the floor, and the listener actually senses that loss of steadiness without even realizing it.
That makes so much sense, Anna. So the goal is to pour that water intentionally, slowly, and deliberately, to let each sentence have its own space and weight instead of rushing everything out at once. I think I do that a lot, especially when I'm nervous in a meeting or when I'm speaking English in an unfamiliar situation. I just pour everything out too fast.
And you're not alone in that at all, Abel. Most of us do it, especially in a second language, where the anxiety of being judged or misunderstood adds extra pressure. But here's the wonderful shift. When you consciously choose to slow down, when you let your words land before moving on, you're saving your water. You're pouring it with intention, and that steadiness is what listeners remember and respect.
Wow, I genuinely feel calmer just hearing that explained that way. So slowing down is not a weakness or a sign that I don't know what I'm talking about. It's actually one of the most powerful tools I have as a speaker. Saving the water means choosing when and how to pour my thoughts out, rather than letting nervousness tip the whole bottle over. I'll carry that image with me from now on.
Exactly. And that leads us so naturally into the next analogy I want to share, Abel, which I think you're going to love. I want you to picture a room that has two windows. The first window is cloudy and gray, covered in fog and old smudges. When you stare through that window, everything outside looks uncertain, blurry, and slightly threatening. That cloudy window represents self-doubt in communication.
Oh, I know that window very well, Anna. That's the one I look through when I second-guess every sentence I've just said, when I replay a conversation in my head and convince myself that everyone noticed my slight grammar mistake or my slight hesitation. That cloudy window makes even a tiny moment of pause feel like a massive failure in front of other people.
Yes, and that cloudy window is so seductive because our brains naturally focus on what feels risky or threatening. But the room has a second window, Abel. This one faces a bright green garden full of calm trees and open space. When you choose to shift your gaze to that window, you start to see that pausing is powerful, that speaking calmly commands attention, and that taking your time actually builds credibility with your audience.
That is such a beautiful way to put it, Anna. So the green garden window is the perspective where I understand that hesitation is not weakness, and where I trust that a measured, thoughtful pace actually makes me sound more confident and more trustworthy as a speaker. The choice is always mine, right? I can keep staring at the fog, or I can turn and look at the garden instead.
Perfectly said, Abel. And the more you practice turning toward that garden window, the more natural it becomes. It's not about eliminating self-doubt completely, because honestly, even the most experienced communicators feel a flutter of nerves. It's about not letting that doubt steer your words. You acknowledge it, and then you choose the garden anyway, every single time.
Oh, wow. I love that, Anna. You acknowledge the doubt and then you choose the garden anyway. That's going to stick with me for a long time. It's so practical, too. I can literally remind myself in the middle of a difficult conversation or a presentation to shift my gaze, to stop staring at the fog, and to look at the green space instead. It changes the inner experience so immediately.
It really does. And speaking of practice and small steps, I want to bring in a concept now that I think will genuinely relieve a lot of the pressure that English learners put on themselves. I want to talk about what I call stepping stones and pocket coins, because so many learners feel like speaking like a leader means delivering a perfect, flawless speech from day one, and that belief is what freezes them completely.
Oh yes, that's absolutely me at certain stages of my English journey, Anna. I used to feel like I needed to be completely fluent, totally polished, and 100% error-free before I had any right to speak up confidently in a group setting. And because I never felt ready enough, I often stayed quiet when I actually had a perfectly good thought to contribute to the conversation.
And that quietness costs us so much, Abel. Here's the reframe. You don't cross a river in one giant leap. You cross it one stepping stone at a time. Each stone is a small 10-minute coin of daily practice. It could be maintaining comfortable eye contact during a chat with a friend, or using a simple, confident sentence structure instead of a complicated one. Each tiny coin adds up to real crossing of that river.
That makes so much sense, Anna. So instead of waiting until I feel totally ready, I start collecting those small coins every single day. Maybe today my coin is slowing down my speaking pace during one phone call. Tomorrow my coin is choosing a clear, direct sentence instead of adding 5 extra nervous qualifications around my main point. Little by little, the coins fill my pocket and I become a more confident speaker naturally.
Exactly right. And those pocket coins build something really important over time, which is momentum. Confidence in communication is not a light switch that suddenly flips on. It is a fire that you feed with small, consistent pieces of wood every day. Each coin is a piece of wood, and before you know it, the fire is warm, steady, and bright enough to light up an entire room when you speak.
Oh, I love the combination of those images, Anna. The stepping stones, the pocket coins, and now the fire. They all point to the same beautiful truth, which is that speaking like a leader is a daily practice and a gradual journey, not a sudden personality transformation that happens overnight. It makes it feel so much more achievable and actually exciting to work toward every single day.
And now I want to introduce one of my absolute favorite communication ideas, Abel, because this one is particularly relevant when we think about the quality and clarity of our actual word choices. I call it the clean knife analogy. Imagine you are trying to cut through a beautiful piece of fresh bread. A clean, sharp knife does the job effortlessly, smoothly, and precisely.
Oh, that is such a clear image, Anna. And I'm already guessing that the bread is the message I'm trying to deliver, and the knife is the language I choose to use. So when my knife is clean and sharp, my message gets through clearly and efficiently, right? But I wonder what it means for the knife to be dirty or dull. What does that look like in real, everyday communication?
Great question, Abel. A dull or dirty knife represents speech that is clogged with filler words, unnecessary jargon, circular explanations, or complicated vocabulary used to sound impressive rather than to be understood. When you fill your sentences with words like basically, sort of, kind of, and after every clause, the listener has to work much harder to find your actual core message inside all of that noise.
And I do that so often, Anna, especially when I'm not 100% sure of myself. I add all of these soft little cushion words around my main idea, almost like I'm apologizing for having an opinion at all. So keeping the knife clean means choosing direct, simple, confident phrasing that cuts straight to the heart of what I'm trying to say without all the extra padding around it.
Precisely. And here's the thing that surprises most learners when they first hear it. Simple language is not a sign of a limited vocabulary. Simple, direct language is actually a hallmark of the most effective communicators in the world. The best leaders, the best teachers, the best speakers all share one quality. They make complex ideas feel incredibly easy and accessible to the people listening to them.
Wow, that is such a reassuring thing to hear, Anna, because I think a lot of English learners, myself included at times, feel like we need to use long, sophisticated words to be taken seriously. But you're saying the opposite is actually true. The cleaner and more direct my language, the more confident and authoritative I actually sound. The sharp knife is the simple, clear, intentional word choice.
And that clarity, Abel, that word clarity, is actually our first vocabulary word for today's episode. Clarity means the quality of being clear, easy to understand, and free from confusion or ambiguity. When your message has clarity, the listener does not have to guess or dig for your meaning. It arrives cleanly and completely, just like that sharp knife moving through the bread with zero resistance.
Oh, I love that definition, Anna. And a really good example sentence for clarity would be something like, the manager spoke with such clarity during the meeting that everyone immediately understood the new project plan without needing to ask a single follow-up question. That's the kind of speaker I want to become, someone whose words land with that kind of clean, effortless precision every time.
That is a wonderful example sentence, Abel, and it perfectly captures what clarity feels like from the listener's perspective. Now, let's keep that energy moving forward because I want to talk about something that connects so deeply to the emotional side of leadership communication. And that brings us to our second vocabulary word, which is the word empathy.
Oh, yes. Empathy is a word I hear quite often in leadership and communication discussions, Anna. I believe it means the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person, to put yourself in their shoes and genuinely sense what they're experiencing emotionally. But I would love to hear how you connect empathy specifically to speaking and communicating with leadership presence.
Great definition, Abel. Empathy in communication means that before you respond to someone, you actually pause and make space to understand their perspective, their emotional state, and their needs in that moment. A leader who communicates with empathy doesn't just wait for their turn to speak. They genuinely listen with curiosity and warmth before offering their own thoughts or solutions.
And that connects beautifully back to what you said right at the very beginning of our conversation today, Anna, about true leadership communication being about making others feel heard and valued. Empathy is basically the engine behind that feeling. When someone senses that you are truly listening to them and not just waiting to respond, they immediately feel safer, more respected, and more willing to engage openly with you.
Exactly right, Abel. And here's a lovely daily life example sentence for the word empathy. You might say, she responded to her colleague's frustration with empathy, calmly acknowledging his concerns before offering a thoughtful suggestion. Notice how empathy comes before the solution in that sentence? The acknowledgement of feeling comes first, and that order is what makes a communicator feel genuinely trustworthy and safe to be around.
Now, that sentence is so practical and beautiful, Anna.
I think empathy is also what separates someone who is simply talking at people from someone who is truly communicating with them. And I want to ask you about something now that I think connects to empathy, but also to a certain inner quality that I sometimes feel I lack. And that quality is the sense of natural authority when I speak in English.
And authority is actually our next vocabulary word for today, Abel. Authority in communication does not mean dominance, aggression, or the power to command others against their will. Communicative authority means the quiet, grounded confidence that signals to others that you believe in what you are saying and that you have something genuinely valuable to contribute to the conversation at hand.
Oh, that is such an important distinction, Anna, because when I used to hear the word authority, I associated it entirely with power over others, with rank or position, or with a loud, booming voice. But communicative authority, as you describe it, is something much more internal, much more grounded. It's the quiet inner knowing that my perspective has value and deserves to be expressed clearly and calmly.
Perfectly said. And a good example sentence for authority would be, even though he was the newest member of the team, he spoke with quiet authority, and everyone in the room naturally found themselves listening carefully to his words. Notice the word quiet in that sentence, Abel. Communicative authority does not shout for attention. It earns attention through steadiness, clarity, and genuine substance.
That makes so much sense, Anna. Quiet authority. I really love that phrase. And I think that connects directly to our next idea, which you hinted at earlier, and which I am really eager to explore. Because I know that one of the things that shakes my sense of authority the most is that inner voice that tells me I am just not a naturally confident speaker, especially not in English as my second language.
Yes, and that inner voice is something we must address head-on, Abel, because it is so common and so powerful in its ability to hold learners back. And the way we address it brings us to one of the most transformative little words in the entire English language. A single word that costs you nothing to add, but changes everything about the direction of your self-belief. That word is yet.
Oh yes, I've heard about the power of yet before, Anna, but I would love for you to walk us through it in the context of English confidence in leadership speaking specifically. Because my inner voice genuinely does say things like, I am not the kind of person who commands a room. I do not have natural authority in English. I cannot hold a conversation confidently under pressure. It says those things regularly.
And every single one of those statements deserves a kind and powerful rewrite, Abel. Instead of saying, I cannot hold a conversation confidently under pressure, you simply add yet to the end. I cannot hold a conversation confidently under pressure yet. That tiny word transforms a closed, final-sounding verdict into an open, active, ongoing journey. It signals to your brain that growth is not only possible, but already in progress.
That is genuinely such a simple but profound shift, Anna. It's like yet opens a door that the original sentence had slammed shut. I do not have natural authority in English yet. I am not the kind of person who commands a room yet. Suddenly, those sentences feel like descriptions of where I am right now on a journey, rather than permanent labels about who I am and will always be as a speaker.
Exactly, Abel. And the beautiful science behind this is that language shapes belief, and belief shapes behavior. When you consistently frame your self-perception as a journey in progress rather than a fixed destination, your actions begin to align with that open mindset. You take more speaking risks, you try that difficult conversation, you raise your hand in the meeting, all because yet gave you permission to be imperfect and growing.
Oh, wow, I love that, Anna. Language shapes belief, and belief shapes behavior. That is such a powerful chain reaction. And it reminds me of the vocabulary word composure, which I think is deeply relevant here, because a lot of what we're discussing really comes down to maintaining your inner calm and steadiness, even when the inner voice of doubt is loudly doing its thing in the background of your mind.
And composure is a wonderful vocabulary word to bring in right now, Abel. Composure means the state of being calm, collected, and in control of your emotions and your physical presence, especially in a stressful or high-stakes situation. A speaker with composure does not become visibly flustered when they stumble over a word or when someone asks an unexpected, challenging question during a discussion.
Oh, that is such a relevant definition, Anna. And a great example sentence for composure might be, despite the unexpected interruption during her presentation, she maintained her composure, took a slow breath, and continued speaking with the same calm, steady confidence as before. That image of taking a slow breath is so powerful because it's such a concrete and physical action that actually produces inner calmness almost immediately.
That's a perfect example sentence, Abel, and I love that you included the slow breath in it, because composure is not just a mental state. It has a very physical dimension. Your breathing, your posture, the pace of your words, the steadiness of your eye contact. All of these physical signals send information both to the listener and to your own nervous system about how safe and grounded you feel in that moment.
That is fascinating, Anna. So composure is something I can actually practice physically, not just mentally. I can slow my breathing, I can sit or stand a little taller, I can choose to reduce my speaking pace just slightly when I feel the nerves beginning to creep in. Those small physical adjustments actually create the internal calm, rather than just waiting for the calm to magically appear on its own.
Exactly right. And that physical practice of composure connects beautifully to our next major idea, which I want to call the no teacher behind the sofa concept. Because one of the biggest reasons people feel uncomfortable speaking in English, especially in leadership style contexts, is the constant fear of being silently judged and evaluated on every grammatical choice they make.
That resonates with me on such a level, Anna. It's like I walk into every English conversation carrying an invisible, imaginary teacher on my back, one who is constantly marking my sentences in red pen. Every time I say something slightly imperfect, I picture this invisible figure wincing or sighing quietly behind me. And that imaginary judgment pulls so much of my focus away from the actual conversation itself.
And here's the liberating truth, Abel. That teacher does not exist. In a real, everyday conversation, whether it's with a colleague, a neighbor, a client, or a friend, nobody is hiding behind the sofa marking your subjunctive clauses or checking whether you used the present perfect correctly. Real people are listening for your meaning, your warmth, your message, and your genuine human connection.
That is such a freeing thing to hear, Anna, because once I stop devoting mental energy to the imaginary grammar judge, suddenly I have so much more attention available to actually listen to the other person, to choose my words with intention, to respond thoughtfully, and to be genuinely present in the moment. The conversation immediately becomes richer and more natural when I stop performing for that invisible critic.
Perfectly observed, Abel, and authenticity is the word that lives at the heart of what you just described. When you speak without performing for a non-existent audience of critics, your real voice, your real warmth, and your real intelligence come through much more clearly and powerfully than any grammatically flawless but emotionally disconnected sentence ever could. Authentic delivery always wins over manufactured perfection.
Oh, wow, I love that, Anna. Authentic delivery always wins over manufactured perfection. That is genuinely one of the most encouraging things I have heard in a long time about speaking English confidently. It means I don't need to build a fake, polished performance. I just need to show up as myself, communicate clearly and warmly, and let the real connection do the heavy lifting. That feels so much more doable.
And that brings in our next vocabulary word perfectly, Abel. The word is assertive. Being assertive means expressing your thoughts, feelings, needs, and opinions in a direct, honest, and respectful way without being aggressive or overly passive. An assertive communicator does not force their view onto others, but they also do not hide or minimize their perspective out of fear of making someone uncomfortable.
Oh, that is such an important distinction, Anna. Because I think a lot of people confuse being assertive with being aggressive or confrontational. But what you are describing is actually a middle path, right?
It is the ability to say clearly and calmly, "This is my perspective, this is what I need," or "This is what I think," while still holding space for the other person to have an equally valid point of view.
Exactly right, Abel. And a wonderful daily life example sentence for assertive would be, she assertively shared her idea during the team meeting, explaining her reasoning clearly and calmly while remaining genuinely open to feedback from her colleagues. Notice how assertive and open are not opposites in that sentence. The most effective communicators are simultaneously clear about their own view and genuinely curious about others.
That makes so much sense, Anna. And I think being assertive actually requires a lot of the other qualities we've discussed today. Clarity in your word choices, composure in your physical and emotional state, and empathy toward the person you are speaking with. Assertiveness without empathy can tip into aggression, and empathy without assertiveness can tip into being overly passive and unclear. The balance between them is where leadership communication lives.
That is brilliantly observed, Abel, and it is that balance that also defines our next vocabulary word, which is the word articulate. To be articulate means to express your thoughts and ideas fluently, clearly, and coherently in a way that is easy for others to follow and understand. An articulate speaker makes you feel like each sentence naturally leads into the next, building a clear and satisfying picture of their message.
Oh, yes, and I think being articulate is something that a lot of people assume is a natural-born talent, Anna. Either you have it or you do not. But I have a feeling you're going to tell me that being articulate is actually a skill that can be developed deliberately and systematically through consistent daily communication practice and genuine self-reflection, just like all the other communication qualities we have explored today.
You are absolutely right, Abel. And one of the most effective ways to become more articulate is to practice organizing your thoughts before you speak, rather than building your structure aloud in real time. When you have even a rough mental map of what you want to say, the words flow in a much more connected and coherent sequence. That sense of structure is what listeners perceive as articulateness in a speaker.
That is such practical advice, Anna. And a great example sentence for articulate would be, the project lead was so articulate in her explanation that even the team members who had no technical background were able to follow her reasoning with ease and confidence. That sentence shows how articulateness is really a gift you give to the listener, not just a personal skill you display for your own benefit.
Oh, I love that framing, Abel. Articulateness as a gift to the listener. That is such a generous and outward-facing way to think about it. And it connects us back to everything we have said about empathy, about clarity, and about making others feel valued and understood. Every communication habit we have discussed today ultimately serves the person on the receiving end of your words, not just your own confidence.
And that is something I want to hold on to as a guiding principle, Anna. Every time I think about improving my communication as an English learner, I want to ask myself, how does this make the listener feel? Am I making them feel heard? Am I making them feel respected? Am I making it easy for them to understand and engage with my message? That listener-centered mindset feels like the foundation of everything.
And speaking of foundations, Abel, I want to bring in our final big analogy for today, which I think is going to bring everything together in the most beautiful and encouraging way. I want to talk about what I call the slow friend, because so many people imagine that vocal confidence must arrive like a sudden electric shock, a dramatic overnight transformation that makes you bold and powerful in an instant.
Oh, yes, I've definitely fallen into that thinking before, Anna. I used to watch confident speakers and imagine that they simply woke up one day with this natural, unshakable boldness in their voice, that it was some kind of personality trait they were born with, rather than a quality they built slowly and deliberately through years of small, consistent, genuine daily communication practice and genuine self-reflection.
And the slow friend analogy gently corrects that idea, Abel. Imagine you're sitting on your front porch on a calm and warm afternoon. You're not anxious, you're not rushing, and you know your friend is on their way. You don't know the exact minute they will arrive, but you know with quiet certainty that they are coming. You're relaxed and open. That feeling of assured, patient waiting is what cultivating vocal confidence actually feels like.
That is such a calm and reassuring image, Anna.
So I stopped demanding that confidence arrive like a sudden taxi that I ordered in a panic. Instead, I create the conditions. I sit on the porch, I slow down my pace, I practice my small coins every day, I choose the garden window, I keep the knife clean, and gradually, naturally, that slow and wonderful friend called vocal confidence walks up the path and sits right down beside me.
That is absolutely beautifully said, Abel, and I couldn't have expressed it better myself. And this is also a perfect moment to bring in our final vocabulary word for today, which is the word credibility. Credibility means the quality of being trusted, believed, and respected by others based on the consistency, reliability, and authenticity of everything you say and do in your interactions with them over time.
Oh, that is a rich and important definition, Anna. And I think credibility is the beautiful outcome of consistently practicing all the habits we have discussed throughout this conversation. When you speak with clarity, when you demonstrate empathy, when you maintain composure, when you are assertive and articulate, and when you speak with genuine quiet authority, credibility is the natural result that builds up over time in the minds of everyone around you.
Exactly right, Abel. And a lovely example sentence for credibility would be, over many months of thoughtful, honest, and clear communication, she built genuine credibility with her team, and they trusted her leadership instinctively, without ever needing to question her motives or her judgment. Notice how that sentence emphasizes time. Credibility is built over many months, not in a single impressive performance moment.
And that circles back so perfectly to the stepping stones and pocket coins idea, Anna. Credibility is not purchased in one dramatic speech. It is earned through the accumulation of dozens and then hundreds of small, consistent, genuine communicative moments. Each one adds a coin to the pile. Each one places another stone across the river. And over time, the crossing is complete and the credibility is real and deeply felt by others.
Beautifully connected, Abel. And I think we are arriving now at the point where it would be wonderful for you to bring all of these incredible ideas together for our listeners in a comprehensive and warm summary. Because we have covered so much meaningful ground today, and I want everyone listening to leave with a clear and encouraging picture of everything they can take away and apply immediately.
Of course, Anna, and what a genuinely rich and wonderful conversation this has been. So, let me walk our listeners through the key ideas we explored together today. We began by redefining what speaking like a leader truly means. It's not about loud commands or complex corporate vocabulary. It's about listening actively, choosing clear and simple words, staying calm and present, and making others feel genuinely heard and valued in every interaction.
Keep going, Abel. You are doing a beautiful job of bringing it all together for everyone listening right now.
Thank you, Anna. We then explored the water from a bottle analogy, which taught us to pour our communicative presence slowly and deliberately, rather than tipping everything out at once through rushed, nervous over-explanation. Then came the room with two windows, reminding us that we can choose the green garden perspective of calm authority over the cloudy fog of self-doubt every single time we enter a speaking situation.
And what about the practical daily habit ideas we discussed, Abel? I want to make sure our listeners walk away feeling like they have real, concrete tools they can use starting from today, not just inspiring concepts that feel beautiful but distant.
Absolutely, Anna. We talked about collecting pocket coins every day, those small 10-minute investments of practice that add up over time into real, lasting confidence. We discussed keeping our knife clean and sharp by removing filler words, unnecessary jargon, and circular explanations from our speech, choosing direct, clear phrasing that cuts straight to our core message with precision and ease and warmth.
And one of my personal favorites from today, which I think will genuinely stay with people for a long time after this episode ends.
Yes, the magic word yet, Anna, replacing closed, fixed statements about ourselves with open, journey-oriented ones, simply by adding yet to the end. I cannot hold a conversation confidently under pressure, yet. I do not have natural authority in English, yet. Each yet opens a door and reminds our brain that growth is not only possible, but actively underway right now in this very moment of listening and learning.
And the slow friend and the no teacher behind the sofa ideas are so important too, Abel, because they address the emotional side of language learning, the fear of judgment, the pressure of perfection, and the impatient demand that confidence arrive immediately and fully formed.
Yes, and those two ideas work together so beautifully, Anna. There is no imaginary grammar judge hiding behind the sofa in real daily conversations. Real listeners care about your meaning, your warmth, and your genuine connection. And confidence, that slow and wonderful friend, arrives naturally when you slow down, practice consistently, remove the self-pressure, and trust the process of growth that is already happening inside you every single day.
And our 7 vocabulary words for today were clarity, empathy, authority, composure, assertive, articulate, and credibility. Each one is a tool for your communicative toolkit. Practice using them in your own sentences today, in your journal, in a conversation with a friend, or even just quietly to yourself. Every time you use a new word, you're adding another coin to that wonderful pocket.
And I want to say to every single listener right now, wherever you are in your English journey, whether you are just beginning or whether you've been learning for many years, every concept we discussed today applies to you. You do not have to be fluent to start practicing these habits. You just have to be willing to show up, slow down, and pour your water with intention, one beautiful conversation at a time.
Oh, I love that closing thought so much, Abel. And now I want to turn directly to you, our wonderful listener, because this is your moment to participate in our conversation. We want you to drop a comment right below this video and share with us just one simple communication habit from today's episode that you're going to practice starting today. Maybe it's slowing down your pace, or adding yet to a limiting belief, or simply choosing one cleaner and more direct sentence the next time you speak English.
Yes, please do share your habit in the comments below, because your comment truly matters to us and to every other learner in this community who reads it and finds encouragement from your honest and generous reflection. We read your comments, and we are genuinely inspired by your commitment to growing and improving every single day. Your progress encourages our entire community to keep going.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep speaking with confidence and ease. This is Anna.
And this is Abel, and you have been listening to the Mr. English Fluent Tutor podcast. Bye-bye. Take care.
And hey, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to keep your language and personal growth moving forward without losing any of the momentum you have built today, make sure you click on the next video right now. We've got another wonderful episode waiting for you that will take everything you learned today and help you build on it even further. We'll see you there.